All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good buddy Lee Fang. Lee is the author of the book The Machine, a field guide to the resurgent right. He is a reporter for The Nation magazine and The Republic Report, which you can find at republicreport.org and thenation.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at LHFang. Lee, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Matthew, thank you so much for having me.
All right, so Lee, you actually have a new investigative report up at The Nation on how venture capitalists are actually poised and just chomping at the bit to pounce on our K-12 education system. Tell us all about it.
Well, Matthew, this is a trend piece taking a look at efforts to privatize K-12 education. Really, education in this country is one of the last areas where we spend a lot of money. K-12 alone, we spend something around the lines of $788 billion a year. But it's one of the last areas that have not really been privatized for a range of reasons. And that much is changing for a lot of reasons. There's a new push to bring education technology to make classrooms more friendly to technology, bringing in learning solutions on the computer, on touchscreens, gamifying different classes and ways of learning. There's also the push towards privatization in the sense that actual schools will be managed for profit, and that is through private schools and some of the new charterization efforts. And if you just look at these larger trends, there are a lot of folks that have a lot of money that are looking at ways to scale this up and create the next big education corporation that can run schools, that can replace teachers, that can provide new solutions in the classroom. And the big question is this good for students? And I think the jury is still out, because a lot of these tech solutions, although many are well-intentioned, others have performed well on the market. They've produced a lot of money, a lot of revenues, but if you look at how they've done for actual children in terms of test scores, dropout rates, attrition, they haven't done so well.
Well, so let's dig into this a little bit. Tell us, who exactly are some of the big players in this? Who are the big firms who are really just ready to try to take some of this money that is currently allocated for public schools and actually trying to privatize it and actually make some money off of it?
Well, some of the big players that are moving into this are existing tech firms trying to get into the education space. News Corp, actually, the parent company of Fox News, has bought a number of education companies. They create a lot of the touchscreen and kind of iPad solutions that are used in a lot of different classrooms. Google and Apple, and Microsoft, they try to move into this space. And there are actually hundreds of startups. So a number of big VC firms like Kleiner Perkins, some of the other big VC firms in Silicon Valley that were behind, Facebook and Uber and all these other very popular tech companies. They've seeded money to hundreds of firms that provide everything from charter management solutions to kind of gamifying the education experience, creating new kind of personalized learning systems for kids to learn at their computer. There's a whole range of solutions. Also, standardized testing technology has really taken off. There's a number of companies that provide these type of solutions. So we really don't see that many big education companies, but there's a lot of firms that have that potential. In terms of charter management companies, there are a few, and many of these companies have been bought by the firm Pearson, a kind of famous education testing company, the standardized testing company. They also create books. But the largest kind of individual education charter startup is K12 Inc. Their stock symbol is LRN. And they're interesting. They actually, in the last quarter, I believe in August, they posted nearly $1 billion in revenue, but they've been very controversial for fairly low test scores. They have they run charters all over the country, but they have their teachers. The average teacher teaches over 250 children. Sometimes their classes are over 350 children, and there've been many scandals. Some of these teachers, they're not certified. In many cases, they'll sign up a student and then basically allow them to log off and not sign on again because they get paid just in the beginning of the school year, given the enrollment rates. But if that student just stops signing on, it doesn't really matter for them. So their whole business model has been controversial, but their business has been growing in large part because they spend very aggressively on advertising. They also lobby very aggressively to get these laws that enable their schools to continue popping up. So when they're rejected from one state, they actually just got kicked out of Tennessee at the end of this school year, and they're in the process of being kicked out of Pennsylvania. But then they're also opening up new schools all across the country.
So Tennessee and Pennsylvania literally kicked this firm out of their state. They're like, no, you're not. You guys did such a bad job here. You're done in Tennessee and Pennsylvania. And yet other states are like, come on down. You guys seem great. Sure, you failed in Tennessee and Pennsylvania, but the people who are bringing them in are so bought off and corrupt that they're willing to take on this company that's clearly failed in many instances already.
Yeah, the record is pretty clear. They've also been kind of kicked out of schools in Maine and other places, and there have been big investigations on them in Bloomberg News and the New York Times. I've written about them previously. Other folks have too, and it's pretty egregious. You have a lot of evidence that this school purposefully has gone in and manipulated their enrollment rates. They've manipulated test scores. They've lied about their performance standards. That actually is what led to them getting kicked out of some of these schools. And in Tennessee, they actually had the lowest score possible. There's kind of like these different gradients, and they got the lowest. And they tried to change that. And they were caught actually in Pennsylvania also manipulating their attendance rates because, again, surprise, surprise, when you have kids who are in elementary school and they're told that they're going to be taking most or all of their classes online, without supervision, they don't actually log in. In any case, it's not like these facts are hidden. You can find them on Google, but unfortunately, the K12 they spend a lot of money on marketing. They buy ads on children's television. They have people going door to door. They have ads on talk radio, and they also have politicians in their pocket. When they go into a state, they hire lots of former legislators, former school officials. They bring governors to these fancy events in San Francisco and Miami, and they also work with some of the conservative think tanks and the group that I know you've talked a little bit about, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and they write kind of template legislation that allows the money that would be allocated to children in a regular public school, and it depends where you are, but a state typically spends between $7,000 and $10,000 per student per year. And they allow that money to be then transferred to a nonprofit they control, and it'll be a charter, but then they manage that charter on a for-profit basis. So it's a really good business plan that they have in the sense that it makes a lot of money, but we haven't seen really much evidence that it's very good for children.